Today, I want to talk a little bit about the science of empathy and emotional regulation for everyone, but in narcissists in particular. You guys have seemed to really enjoy our deep dives into the brain science and the biology of narcissism, how it all works in the brain. So I figured we'd dive a little bit into that today. Before we go on, make sure you subscribe, give some likes and thumbs up, give some comments below. I love interacting with you guys in the comments. What's working for you? What questions do you have? What other topics you might want me to cover? How's this one strike you? Do you want to learn more about it? I'm happy to share more. All right. So, have you ever wondered why some people seem naturally empathic while others struggle? The answer might lie in how their brains are wired. So, I want to talk about two structures in the brain today. One is called the medial prefrontal cortex, or the MPFC, and the other is called the anterior cingulate cortex. And these are the two key areas of the brain that are involved in empathy and emotional regulation. So they are two parts of the brain, but they work together to process emotions and to consider other people's perspectives. So the way it works, based on brain imaging studies, is when a person is hooked up to that and they see or experience another person having an emotional experience, the MPFC lights up, and that indicates that the person identifies that this other person is having an emotional experience. And that's where the beginning of the empathic response occurs. Then there's a neural connections over to the ACC, and when that lights up, that's the part of the brain that allows us to naturally and sort of intuitively put ourselves in the other person's shoes. And not that you're feeling what they're feeling, but you are able to have a close facsimile of that, meaning you can imagine yourself in their shoes and you can imagine how you would feel in that. And that's how we get that empathic response. One area lights up, then the other area lights up, and then we can express that natural response. Now, what they found in studying narcissist brains is that there's reduced gray matter in actually both of these areas of the brain. So if you don't know the sort of the anatomy of brains and how that works, there's gray matter and there's white matter. That's the big two sort of distinctions in the brain. And that's just the color. That's why they call them that, gray or white. And there's different colors for different parts of the cells of our brain, the neurons. So the gray matter is the nucleus, or the actual cells. So if you have more gray matter, you have more cells. And if you have less gray matter, you have less cells. And the white matter are the connections, so the axons and dendrites, but basically the wiring between the cells. So when they see less gray matter in these areas, that means there actually is a smaller amount of brain in those sections, or less, less neural cells. So, real simply put, the more gray matter you have in a certain part of the brain, the more active that area is. The less you have, the less active that is. So that shows us that in a brain wiring, in the brain anatomy, a narcissist brain literally has less activity in those areas. So it's not like we're choosing to ignore other people's feelings or so on and so forth. It's really that there's just less of that there. It's kind of like if you're somebody who, has a loss of hearing, you can still hear some things, but not as well. And you can hear less of the harder to hear things. So some people are hard of hearing, can hear high noises fine, but low tones, they just all bleed together. And vice versa. Some people can't hear high tones at all, and when they have a reduction in hearing. So it's similar. If you have a reduction in the gray matter of those brain areas, you just don't hear other people's emotions as readily, and then you don't connect that to how would I feel in their shoes. Put yourself in their shoes. There's just less of that. It's like you're not hearing that, to use the hearing analogy. So what happens is we walk around as narcissists in this world where everybody seems to sort of be having this experience that we can't really relate to. Or I'll speak for me. I could never really relate to it. I saw that it was something valued by people. I saw that it was something important to them, that when they would express something emotional, another person would be able to express empathy back. But it always seemed like this mystery, because like all I could put it in was my own perspective of with empathy. I just had to sort of fake it or mimic what I saw other people do. And if I really sat and thought about it, I would have thought, well, those people are much better at faking it than I am. But they weren't faking it. It was actually occurring naturally in their brains. And so for me, empathy often felt like a performance. I can mimic it, but it never felt natural. And what we see when we hook up the brain scanning technology to a narcissist brain and then have the same set of experiences, that those parts of their brain do light up. It's not completely absent, but the connections are less, the number of cells is less, and so it's just a much more muted response. It's kind of like, if you get a bunch of notifications on an app on your phone, but you can never actually open the app to find out what the notifications are. It would just be confusing. You'd be like, I know there's something happening. I know I'm getting emails, but I have no idea what they say. It's like the same thing. Your brain is getting the emails, but you can never open them to read what the emails are saying, so you can't respond. And so the good news is that these parts of the brain exist. And even if you have less gray matter, that doesn't mean that it's unattainable or you can't ever get there. We know the brain is very plastic, meaning it can create new connections. Even people who have, physical brain damage and parts of their brain are injured beyond repair, they can actually create connections that bypass that to be able to function well. And I believe the same thing can happen with empathy. Not that perhaps I will ever have, quote unquote, normal levels of empathy, but certainly with concerted attention and practice, I've already started to experience sort of the beginnings of actual empathy. And it's like building a muscle in the gym, right? You can have really small muscles and be really weak physically, but you go to the gym, you start exercising, you do it consistently over a period of time, and those muscles will grow. The same thing happens with empathy. So the first step in this journey of awakening to your narcissism is simply that, awakening, understanding the reality of what that means, really parsing through what the differences are, and becoming much more capable of accepting yourself for who you are. And then you can actually use that newfound knowledge to start practicing new behaviors and new ways of interacting with people. And what will happen is you will start to experience this feeling that perhaps you never had, called empathy. So it might not come naturally, but with awareness and effort, empathy is something we can work on and actually improve. And why would you want to do that? Because let me tell you, having empathy, well, okay, I'll tell you a little bit real quick. I've had a couple experiences in the recent past where I'm like, oh, I was having some empathy there. And what was surprising to me was that I actually kind of liked it. And why I say that's surprising is because being a narcissist and not having the same emotional world as sort of normies, when I see people who are very emotional or seem very emotionally driven in their lives, a lot of times it seems terrible. Like sloppy, messy, out of control, all things that narcissists don't really want to have happen. And so I didn't know if I was going to like it, if I started having more feelings, if I started having empathy and things like that. But from my experience, I did like it. I have liked it. And it's something that I'm interested in exploring more, learning more about. Because I mean, hey, if it ends up sucking, I can always, go the other direction. I don't think that'll happen, but that's the sort of the risk reversal of it all. So I encourage you to start, once you're becoming aware and conscious, start looking for those areas where there's those little blooms of empathy and experience it. Maybe you might like it, and it might help you create a more satisfying life because you might have more satisfying interactions with the people who you're in relationship with. All right. Hope that was helpful. Make sure you subscribe, give some likes and thumbs up, comment below. I love interacting with you guys in the comments. What do you think about this? Do you think it's great? Do you think what I'm saying is BS? Do you have questions? Do you have other topics you want me to cover? All that stuff, put that in the comments below. That's where we interact. All right. You guys take care.